coming here to Fordham University. My name is Beth Gittleman. I am a red meat broker, obviously. I work at Compass with my team and my partners, Emily Ackerman and David Hidalmi. I am the chair of the Upper Manhattan Committee and sit on the executive board of NYRS, so you can come speak to me about anything related to those things after if you would like. Been working with Vivace in these panels. It's great to hear from top agents. We've had some really great panels over the last 6 months, so be here for this one, look out for the next ones, and it's all an opportunity to engage you guys with some of the top in our industry, so it's very exciting. Thank you so much to Fordham University for this space and Citizens Bank for sponsoring this event. We have an exciting morning for everyone. All right, well, let's get this party started, shall we? I'm going to bring up to the stage our panelists now, so everybody get your applause ready. We're going to start by bringing in David Kornmeier from Brown Harris Stevens. We have Louise Phillips Forbes from Halstead. Ryan Serhant from Nest Seekers. We have Raphael Niro from Douglas Elliman. Beth Benalloul from Corcoran. And then we have our moderator, Vivace Maxvictor. All right. Okay. Am I supposed to dance with this intro? Okay. So just a little bit about Vivace before we get started. Vivace kind of has an amazing story. She's a graduate of Cornell Medical School as a surgical PA. She had a 12-year career in medicine prior to pursuing her passion for public speaking and coaching. And so in the past 8 years, Vivace has done over 4,000 coaching calls with some of the top agents in New York City. She is highly sought after and has spoken for Brown Harris Stevens, Compass, Corcoran, Halstead, Elliman, Bohemia, Barbara Fox Realty, Triple Mint, Level Group, and many more. So you may have seen her on several Redme panels, especially the Mindset series this year, as well as Fox Business News, and recently on $1 Million Listing New York. And so I think she's a great testament to go after what you're passionate about, and doors will open. So welcome, Vivace, and welcome to everyone. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank the Real Estate Board of New York. Thank you again for having me, and thank you for creating this incredible event. A lot of work went into getting the space and having all of you come. So could you please give it up for the Real Estate Board of New York? We want to thank Fordham University for giving us this space. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for coming. You sold the event out in one day. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the panel. Remember, we agreed to keep your energy up, yes? So, let's all welcome Beth Benalloul.
Hi, everyone.
Beth Benalloul is from Corcoran. She's ranked by Wall Street Journal as one of the top 15, and that's 15 brokers in New York City. Beth, can you please share a fun fact or fun story about yourself?
Oh, God, a fun fact? Well, I would say a couple of fun facts is I was a personal trainer before I got into this business. I'm super obsessed with fitness to this day. And my husband, who's in the audience, will attest I never really miss a workout. So as passionate I am about real estate, I'm still passionate about fitness. Another fun fact is I have 3 boys who pretty much keep me on my toes.
Please give her some love. Are any of our friends from Corcoran here? Yes. Woohoo! We have one of our friends. We have a couple of our friends from Corcoran here. Beautiful. Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Raphael Niro from Douglas Elliman. Raphael Niro is the founder of the Niro team. Please share a fun fact or fun story about yourself.
I'm kind of boring. I don't really have any.
You're not the boring.
Fake it till you make it.
It's the ones who say they're boring, right? It's those ones you gotta watch out for.
I like to watch Antiques Roadshow.
Antiques Roadshow, everybody give them some love.
All right. That is very good cocktail trivia.
Are any of our, please chime in. Are any of our friends from Douglas Elliman here? Please make some noise. Yeah, a lot of them.
Got a lot of love today.
Yes. Well, I want to present to you Mr. Ryan Serhant from Nest Seekers. Please give him some love. Ryan has the #1 sales team in New York, and he's the #3 in the nation, as ranked by the Wall Street Journal Real Trends. Ryan, can you please share a fun fact or fun story about yourself?
I hand modeled for a long time. I think people probably know that. This.
And I'm reminded of that because there was a billboard that was up in the city yesterday that had my hands on them, and it totally blew my mind.
How do you know they're your hands?
Because I remember taking the photos, and they painted my hands to look like pandas for an AT&T commercial. Listen, it was $150 an hour. That's a good deal. Okay?
I love that. That's awesome.
2008, tough times.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ryan Serhant. Give him some love. Are any of our friends from Nest Seekers here? Please make some noise.
Yeah.
We're all here. We're all here for you. They're all working for him right now.
Yes.
Just to be clear,
Where-
they're
where
all
are-
working for him.
Ryan's getting richer by the minute. They're all working out there.
We don't have enough
zero.
zeros on the paper for him to double.
Would like to introduce Louise Phillips Forbes from Halstead, everybody. Give her some love. And also Miss Diane Ramirez from Halstead is in the audience too, so thank you for coming. She's a big deal, people. Give her some love.
The legend.
So Louise is one of the top agents, and also she's one of the Real Trends 250 America's best real estate agents with over $4 billion, as in billion, dollars in residential sales. Louise, can you please share a fun fact or fun story about yourself?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so when I came to New York, I came here to dance. I used to say 10 pounds ago. I don't say that anymore. And I injured my back, and I was slinging drinks, and somebody was like, "You'd be really good in real estate." And so when I got into real estate, she gave me a card, and I got a job, and I didn't know that it was commission only. And I would wear cowboy boots, unitard, vision that, and a prairie skirt.
So Louise, you used to dress like Ryan does in $1 Million Listing.
You know, just saying.
Right? All right, good. Well, thank you for sharing your fun fact. Would like to present to you Mr. David Kornmeier from Brown Harris Stevens. David is one of the top 10 agents in Manhattan and is these top 50 agents nationwide by Wall Street Journal. David, can you please share a fun fact or fun story about yourself?
You know, it's funny, I didn't think you were actually going to ask this question. I thought it was just sort of like a mental prep thing. But I guess the way I actually got into real estate was I wasn't really interested in doing anything after college, and my dad suggested that I take a personality test that sort of comes up with jobs based on your personality, and the results of the test were actor, psychologist, and real estate broker.
Wow.
Give him some love, people! Are any of our friends from combining Halstead and Brown Harris Stevens here? Please make some noise. Fantastic. We're going to go from that side to this side. Actually, we did you, Beth. We're going to start with Raphael. Raphael, a person's mindset can make them or break them in any business. Why is mindset so important in the New York real estate game?
This is probably the hardest city in the world to break into real estate. But once you break in, you're going to have to be super, super confident and not be fazed by having doors closed on your face. So keeping a positive mental attitude whenever you can is key. Without that, I don't think you can succeed.
How do you keep a positive mental attitude when you're faced with doubt, disappointment, frustration, overwhelm, anxiety every single day?
Stay busy, right? One door closes and another one opens 5 minutes later. Once you're doing enough and you're active enough, you start to not really get fazed by things going wrong, and you know that something is going to go right the next day or the next hour, and you just move on. You take a few minutes and then you move on.
So everyone, stay busy and move on. For everyone in the audience who says, I have nothing to do to stay busy, how would you respond to that?
You should be reading voraciously, and you should be going to open houses and previewing apartments all day, 7 days a week.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan Serhant, same question. A person's mindset can make them or break them in any business. Why is mindset so important in the New York real estate game?
I'll echo what what Raphael said. I think mindset is everything for us, right? We're selling relationships to people. You know, I really don't think of myself as a real estate broker. I mean, the real estate is our widget. You know, it's that thing. And for me, it's very much in a business that's so much of a roller coaster, right? It's like you wake up every day and you have a choice. You know, you get into the car or you get into your Uber, you go into the train, you go outside, and you either have a window to your right where everything is sunny and awesome, or you look out the window to your left and it's pouring rain and it really, really sucks. And you have a choice, right? So putting mental illness aside, like you have a choice in this business to wake up every day and say, you know what? I don't care what happens to me today or what happens with any deal, sun shining. Let's go after it and let's get it. And I think that is integral to all of us. And I think if you look at anyone on this panel, a lot of people in this room, the real estate agents who've been in this the longest, who've had that endurance, who are the most successful, are the ones who have that attitude and have the highest amount of energy. And they work for it. It's definitely not easy.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan Serhant. Louise, same question. A person's mindset can make them or break them in any business. Why is mindset so important in the New York real estate game?
I think that again, for somebody who didn't even know I was working for commission only, I really think that faking it till you make it, and that it all sort of originates from your mindset and the attitude that you choose, just as Ryan, and I'm echoing what Raphael said. But I think for myself, I was not comfortable working for quote unquote commission. So I needed to make what I did and identify it that made me feel good, which was being of service and being an educator. And so when I was purposeful in my philosophy, it automatically set my mindset where it wasn't about the deal, it was about the experience and the process. And that is how I fostered those relationships, and therefore I wasn't a salesperson.
Thank you so much, Louise. Let's give her some love. Mr. David Kornmeier, a person's mindset can make them or break them in any business. Why is mindset so important in the New York real estate game?
Well, I think for any self-employed person, you have to find ways to stay as confident as you can. You know, for me, when I lose a big listing or a deal or whatever, I took it really hard at first, and then as you start to do more stuff, you lose more stuff. Babe Ruth struck out more than anybody else, right? So I think for me personally, one of my tendencies that's not so positive is I would tend to like lose something, get upset, and then immediately scramble and try to like make up for it in some other way. But the way I was making up for it actually was just not very good. So I learned for myself personally, if I'm upset about something, I have to take a break. And sometimes it takes me 48 hours to rebound off of something, and so then I'm, you know, in meetings for 2 days or whatever. And I think knowing yourself in a very real way and sort of respecting whatever your process is to change something internally is really important, so that you can come to the table, you know, feeling good and being positive and treating people in the right way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kornmeier. Beth Benalloul, a person's mindset can make them or break them in any business. Why is mindset so important in the New York real estate game?
So I think that this business, in and of itself, like what Ryan said, it's literally a roller coaster. And you have to be able to ride it because, I mean, I'll give you an example. It's very timely. So the last few weeks I've been working on a very big deal, and everything was
How big?
North of 10 million. And so anyway, this week I get a call on Monday, and I was expecting them to be like, great news, we just signed, we're setting the wire. And you know, it's that famous call, do you have a minute? Of course I have a minute. That's like Mondays and do you have a minute? Not good things to do. You know, it's already starting down. So I said, sure, I have a minute. So, you know, we've been going back and forth all weekend on the apartment, and, you know, while the location is perfect and the building is amazing and everything is perfect, we decided we don't like the block. Like, the block? You live 2 blocks away from the block. But this block is just, it feels, gritty. I'm like, but it's under construction. Like, that's going to change once the building is up. We don't feel 100% and we just can't go forward. I'm like, okay. Now, and my heart is like down to the floor because I'm thinking this is literally a done deal and now it's just literally collapsed on me. I hung up the phone. I took a minute. I turned around to Sammy. I'm like, they're bailing. And, you kind of, it's almost like surreal because it's like you think at that point, it was done. The contract was negotiated, finished.
How many of you, please raise your hands if you can relate to her?
Yes. And it's very upsetting. And there's no other way to say it. So, for a minute, you're have to come to yourself, and then, it's like this feeling that you have, at least that I have, I don't know if the others feel the same way, you're like, am I ever gonna do a deal again? Was that my last big deal? And that's it, am I gonna have to move? And you start getting all these racing thoughts in your head that are pretty much irrational, but it happens. And then, that's it. I went out that night, I had 2 glasses of wine, woke up the next morning, got on the treadmill, and I just went about my day. And sure enough, look, something else came up. Was it that price point? No, but things will happen. And, you gotta be able to swing with the punches. Because I think if not, look, I could have stayed in bed the next day and been like, I'm not going to work, I'm gonna just cry and watch movies on Netflix. But you gotta really rebound, and you gotta rebound fast. And I always think of what Barbara Corcoran says, the faster you can get up after being knocked down is the better you're gonna do in this business, because it's a lot of that.
Thank you so much for sharing. Give her some love, people. Ryan, which is a bigger issue, a bad market or a bad mindset, and why?
Listen, bad markets suck. Okay, I just want to put that out there.
You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, but I would say a bad mindset for sure. It's, if you have a negative attitude and you have a bad mindset, you're not going to have fun in a good market or a bad market. But if you have a great mindset, you're going to have a great time in a great market, even though we never know we're in a great market till it's over, by the way. I didn't know 2014 was a good time. I don't know if anyone remembers that, right? It kind of felt terrible at the time. Anyway, but and then in a down market, you're going to be positive to try to diversify and figure things out and say, you know what, let's go do things differently. It's what's pushed us and our team into different areas and to do different things. I spend more of my day now in Long Island City than I do in Manhattan or Brooklyn. And that was not the way it was 10 months ago because product moves there. All I care about is volume, right? I want to sell as much as possible. And that's a market that is super positive and it's moving really, really quickly. So let's do it. Let's go after it. If I was negative about kind of how hard it was to sell a $5 million apartment that faces a brick wall on 21st Street, then I would probably have a hard time every day. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan.
I don't think we have to clap after everybody,
right? We have to
Okay.
clap after everybody.
Really? Are you
Yeah,
sure?
we want to keep the energy up.
Okay.
All right, go. Louise, Forbes, which is a bigger issue, a bad market or a bad mindset, and why?
I think the mindset is, it's interesting. If I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about my own personal experience, I've had a very, very difficult 2 years, and which has been, just on a professional note, just a transition and transformation. And, those difficult times, and what I really recognized that at some point, my mindset was not able to move forward, and that when I made the decision, a business decision, a personal, an emotional, that I'm in charge of my own destiny, that I'm going to just keep doing what I do, which is be of service, be who I am, work like a dog and not ever say no, but also being nimble to the transformation that I was sort of forced to shift with professionally and within my team. And from that, I will just say that shift in that attitude, which probably took place 3 to 4 months ago, is unbelievable what is going on right now. Now, some of that is going to be market, but I believe wholeheartedly that when I stop learning, I stopped living, and that was one of the greatest lessons that I've had.
Thank you so much. Mr. David Kornmeier, which is a bigger issue, bad market or bad mindset, and why?
Yeah, I agree with everyone else. I think mindset, bad. I don't know. You're supposed to bad mindset. Bad mindset is worse. So in 2009, as everybody knows, the market crashed, and at that point, I had sort of just started to. I started in 2003. I've been in the BHS Westside office for almost 17 years. And I had just kind of started to get a little bit established, and I went to an open house, and the open house had a financial advisor there, and she sold me on investing in the stock market. So in June 2008, I made my first large investment into the stock market. I didn't I don't come from any money. Like, this was all of my money. Market crashes, and she calls me and she's like, well, give me some more. Now's the time to invest. I'm like, you just lost all that. That was it.
You still talk to her today?
I actually don't remember her name. But at the same time, I didn't do a new deal for 11 months, and I had 3 deals in contract where the buyers walked away from the contracts and left their 10% deposits on the table. So, but, because the start I had in the business was also very tough, I kind of learned, just go in, do your thing, keep putting it out there. And then March 2009, I did a $15 million deal, which was the biggest deal I had done at that point. Before that, the largest deal I had done was like a $12 million deal. And I did that in arguably the worst market of the modern era. So I'm not sure if I had a good mindset or not, but at the end of the day, you gotta keep trying or do something else, I think.
Thank you so much, David. Beth, which is a bigger issue, a bad market or a bad mindset?
So I'm going to say a bad mindset, but I also believe that even though we're in, let's call it quote unquote, a bad market, to me, there's no market that's really easy, right? I always, and I come back to this story that happened to me years ago. I think it was 2006 or 2007. I wasn't in the business that long, and I had gotten like my first, I'll call it a big buyer at the time. Maybe it was a $3 million buyer, and I was super excited. And I remember I took them to 10 West End Avenue, which was a new development at the time. And I'll never forget the showing. And we walked out of the showing, and we're standing in the front. It's still a construction site. And Loretta, who was doing the sales at the time, says to me, all right, look, everything's moving very quickly, so you guys have to let me know immediately if you want to go forward with the unit. So I said, great, all right, we're going to go have coffee, and I'll call you in a couple hours. So we literally walk from the building to Columbus Circle. We sit down, we have a coffee. An hour and 20 minutes later, I call her to say, that's it, they're going to take the 3rd floor. And she goes, oh no, I'm sorry. I'm like, what? She's like, we sold the 3rd floor. I'm like, what? I don't understand. I just left there 80 minutes ago. How did you sell the 3rd floor in the last 80 minutes? She's like, yeah. She's like, I know it sounds crazy, but we just had so many people. And if they want to go forward, they're going to have to go forward with a higher floor for more money. And already, of course, I had pushed them to take that one. So my point here is that in that market, everything was moving so quickly that it was like you bring a buyer, there's we have 7 offers already and we're over ask, all cash. So it's even at that point, it's hard to do business in that kind of a market, because even if you have a great buyer, you're bidding against 7 other great buyers, versus a market that we're in now where there's no buyers, but at least if you have a buyer, they're the only one most of the time. So I think it's sort of, I don't want to say all things being equal, because I do think this is obviously a more difficult market. And I think if you're new in the business, that can be challenging and definitely daunting. But don't think that getting into a super frothy market is going to be much easier, because you have the opposite problem, in my experience.
Thank you so much, Beth. Raphael, which is a bigger issue, bad market or bad mindset? Why?
Tough question, but for fun, maybe the contrarian and say bad market.
Prove it!
There are plenty of people with terrible mindsets who did really well between 2006 and 2015.
So true. Well, thank you. Louise, we're going to start with you. They're keeping it real. This is great. Louise, we're starting with you. What's the best career advice that you've ever received?
I said it earlier. I think that the moment that I stop learning is the moment that I stop living, and also to fake it till you make it, because at the end of the day, my first deal that I did, I was like, well, I'm sorry, what do you mean this is a co-op? I didn't know what a co-op was. So for anybody who's new, it does get better if you just keep showing up. But that was my best advice, truly.
Thank you so much, Louise. David, what's the best career advice that you've ever received?
I guess I had two things. The best general advice specific advice I ever received was from a family friend who's a commercial real estate broker in DC. And he said, 2 years in the bank all the time. And I was like, what? 2 years of cash in the bank all the time. And that is actually the best advice I ever got, because you can really weather a lot of things, and it's really actually just practical, you know. And that helps your mindset, it helps everything else, because you're like, oh, I don't have to move into my parents' basement again. And then I think the other thing is sort of something I picked up sort of through my old boss. He didn't tell me this, but just is what he did, was price point discipline. And what that means is business begets business. So if you're listing studio apartments in Battery Park City, you're going to get studio apartment, Battery Park City buyers and more listings like that. And that's great, nothing against that. But if you, whatever you work on is what you're going to get. It's basically what I think. And so trying to wait for the thing that you want, whatever that may be, and then working through that in that category, I think that will help a lot for anyone who wants a specific thing. But, you know, it takes a long time. Sometimes you might have to go 6 months, you might have to go a year before you do a deal, and that's really hard.
David, how do you maintain your psychology? So you could have gotten the studio, you didn't do the studio, you were waiting for the big fish to arrive. During all those months when you didn't have business, how did you wait it out?
Well, 2 years in the bank, first of all. But when I didn't have 2 years in the bank, I remember when I started, I had $8,000 in the bank, and I lived with my grandma in New Jersey. You know, I think, I don't really know, honestly. You just have to kind of do it and say no. And if you get something you don't want, refer it out. And, you know, I quit a couple of times, honestly, because I was broke. But then, like, right at the last minute, something came in. So I think it's really just about really being willing to sort of lose everything for what you want, you know. So I'm like, if I'm not getting, you know, a townhouse at this price point, I'm not doing anything. And so I don't know how you personally motivate yourself to do that, but that's what I did.
For anyone who doesn't know, David has sold over 100 townhouses in Manhattan.
Townhouse king, right there.
Right there.
Thank you for sharing that.
Not cheap ones either.
Yeah, they're
big ones, expensive.
David, would you like to tell us a little bit about the type of townhouses that you...
What's the biggest deal you've done?
Yeah,
Cough
tell us.
We're not going to do that, but sorry, what's the question exactly?
Tell us a little bit about the townhouse deals that you do. And by the way, when I was speaking to David before, he said if any of you are buying or selling a townhouse and you need advice, feel free to reach out to him. So that was very kind of him.
So, you know, my old boss, he only sold townhouses on the Upper West Side since 1978. And I worked for him for 4 years. I started as a secretary, then I was an assistant, and junior broker, that sort of thing. And, you know, extremely knowledgeable person. So between that and my own experiences, just any issue that comes up with houses, zoning, tenant stuff, landmarks, violations, C of O issues, that type of thing. I really try to figure out what the problems are in advance. Like, so I'll go on a pitch and I'll tell somebody, hey, here are all the problems you have with your house. And usually that's not what they're expecting. You know, they're usually telling, I'm going to tell them some big number. And I'm like, no, you've got a lot of problems you got to fix. So I try to kind of...
He's a fixer.
Yeah, and I don't know. To me, I like deals that are complex because it's more interesting for me. And so getting involved in something complicated with hair on it, or, you know, a developer buying an SRO with a commercial tenant who's converting, and it's a nonprofit upstairs, converting to a single family. Like there's a house in the village that I sold, the Pen and Brush building, which had that scenario. 2 deals had gone into contract and fallen out of contract because the buyers couldn't close. I brought the buyer, we figured out the SRO issue, got a certificate of non-harassment, got the deal to close for 11.2. I advised them on the renovation, helped them sort of design the layout, and then resold it for $32 million. So that's the type of thing that I like to do when I can.
Call if you have any questions.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Beth, what's the best career advice that you've ever received?
I mean, I would just say the best career advice is do what you love and love what you do, and then you'll become the best at it, and you won't feel like you're working every day. You know, you'll feel like you're funning. I don't know. But I think that's one of the other thing I think, which is very important in sales, and I think even I try to catch myself from doing this, is, and you know, you get so busy, and I'm sure you guys will appreciate this, you're doing a lot of transactions, you're being pulled in a lot of different directions between, you know, whatever you have going on. And especially in the market that we're in now, because things are taking so much longer to sell and sellers are, you know, needier in a sense, especially if their listing's not moving. Especially sellers, they need to feel like you really care about them and they really, you know, that you invested in their apartments. You know, I had a client call me the other day and her apartment's totally overpriced. I've told her this every way I can. She doesn't want to hear it. It's always, you know, I understand, I know the market, I understand, but she really doesn't. And, you know, she's like, I want to feel that you're invested, that you care. And it's not that I don't care, but it's like, I have 17 other people who are 20 times more realistic than you are, and you want me to invest every single, you know, marketing dollar and moment of my life into your apartment that's completely overpriced. You know, it's a very tough thing, but I think the point is that I made a very good effort, like, and I'm doing this really just across the board, is to really like be more present with my sellers and show them that I'm, you know, that I really care about it, even though I know that, you know, look, it's business and sometimes you got to watch where you expend energy, because if someone's not in reality, then you could be doing this for 10 years with the same result or no result. But I think that's an important takeaway, is just to sort of, you know, be communicative and care about your sellers.
Thank you, Beth. Raphael, best career advice that you ever received?
I've thought about this a lot, and I can't come up with one because I've gotten a lot of good career advice from a wide range of people over the years. But one that stuck with me was from a developer client in 2006 or 7, which wasn't given directly to me, but I overheard in a meeting. He said that I always return a phone call no matter what. And that kind of stuck with me and resonated with me, and I've tried to always do that, no matter who it is, whether it's someone I really want to speak to or not. I try to always call back.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Ryan Serhant, best career advice you ever received?
Career, for real estate career.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Please.
There's been a couple. I would say there was a jazz musician, and I've talked about this a few times. So there's a jazz musician who, on his deathbed, after going through a really, really rocky career, roller coaster, everything, asked, "How did you do it? How did you churn out record after record after record and go through life and all the ups and downs?" And he said, "If you take care of the music takes care of you." And so for me, and everyone's kind of echoing the same thing. If you wake up, you do the work. Like, that's what our job is, you know, so that way you don't live by deals dying and then getting deals. It's too emotional, you get too sensitive, it's too tough, we end up quitting, it's like, I can't do this. But if you know that your job every day is to wake up and do the work, the work's going to take care of you. Like, that's the best part about this business and being in the sales business. Like, the more people you meet, by default, you will sell more. You know, the more you follow up with those people, the more you return calls every day, you will just do more. Like, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just literally have to wake up and do the work. And that was a big thing for me because I was like, oh, I don't know anybody. I'm not from New York City. I didn't grow up on the Upper East Side. I didn't go to that school. You know, I don't even have a suit at the beginning. Now I have lots of suits.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Are you getting what you need? Is this good?
Yes.
Please high five your neighbor on your right and left and say this is good.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. David Kornmeier, we're going to start with you. Which two key beliefs have been critical to your success?
I kind of already said them.
Go for it.
It was the two that I just said.
2 years in the bank?
2 years in the bank and price point discipline.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes. Beth, Benalloul, 2 key beliefs that have been critical for your success.
2 key, I'm sorry.
2 key beliefs that have been critical for your success.
Oh gosh. Again, kind of reiterating what I said before, it's just sort of like having grit, be able to like stay with it and not, you know, go down with the roller coaster. And I also think that something that's very important that a lot of people don't like to do, but it's like putting yourself out there. And I think that like getting out there, meeting people, you know, trying to network, you know, even though sometimes it's painful, I think that that is an important, I've noticed that whenever I do it, I get results. So it's hard to motivate yourself to do it a lot, but I do think it works.
Thank you so much. Which 2 key beliefs, Raphael, have been critical for your success?
I would say that I try to always think of what I'm doing as advisory, right? And giving people not self-serving advice, but the advice that's best for them. And probably spending the same or more time talking people out of doing things that probably aren't good for them than I do trying to convince them to do something that I think or know is good for them. And never sort of chasing your next check, like saying or doing or behaving in a way that's just consistent with seeking a check and not actually trying to do the right thing by your clients, right? So from my standpoint, and I think from everyone on my team, it's advisory or stay home on your couch. And if you want to be doing this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you have to be that way, I think.
Yeah.
And if you're any other way, you're going to burn out in 10-ish.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Brian, which 2 key beliefs have been critical for your success?
I would say the first one is you are only as good as your last deal. Kind of echoing on what David said a little bit, right? That, you know, success begets success. If your last deal is a small apartment somewhere where you don't really want to do deals and you're not in love with doing those types of deals, kind of like Beth was sort of saying, then don't do them because that's what you're going to get. Right? Like when I first started and I was just doing rentals in Koreatown, Long Island City, things like that, it was $2,000 a month rentals. And I saw all these people doing sales around me and they were crushing it in townhouses and I was just doing lots of $2,000 a month rentals. I was like, how do I even meet those people? And someone said, if you do $2,000 a month rentals, you get $2,000 a month clients with $2,000 a month problems. And you'll just be busy doing that, so you gotta kind of project yourself. So you're only as good as your last deal is super important. And tomorrow's always another day. You know, like there was, last year, there was like one Monday, that's why I said Mondays are the worst, because everyone thinks through the weekend and they change their mind. Like we lost, you know, like it was like 12 deals for $72 million on one Monday, and that sucked. But it was like, you go home, you sort of start trying to put the pieces back together, and then you wake up on Tuesday and you go right back at it, you know?
How many did you do on Tuesday?
Probably 0. I don't remember. It's all a blur at this point.
Thank you so much. Louise, which 2 key beliefs have been critical to your success?
I guess I think I've said it earlier, but I'll repeat it because it's worthy of myself to always hear this. Is that when I sort of shifted and made a really clear decision very purposefully to be of service and to be generous with my knowledge and to be an educator, not a salesperson. That trickled effect to me taking time when people would say, hey, I want to get into real estate. I would have coffee with them. I would help them. I would call managers at Douglas Elliman or at Corcoran or different firms and try to find a home for those people. And lo and behold, the 70 plus people that have come into the business with different careers, coming from different careers, I have sat on the other side of the table probably no less than 50 times where they remembered me taking that moment. So as it works not only for my clients, it is for our colleagues that's just as important.
Thank you so much. David, what is the greatest mistake that you've ever made in your career, and what is the lesson that you learned? So the mistake and the lesson, please.
Curveball.
Yeah, right. I think actually to echo Raphael's earlier point, when I first started out, I was so kind of wrapped up in my own head and scared, and it's very easy in general throughout, I think, your career as an independent contractor to get in kind of what I call like the broker bubble, where your world is the entire world around you and your problems are the entire world around you, and it's a big world out there, and there are a lot of other problems and a lot of other positive things, and I think just I was too focused on myself and too focused on not putting my clients first, and Raphael said you'd last 10 years that way, and I'm like, no way, dude, you're gonna last 10 minutes, because people can tell. Like, if you are just trying to do a deal to put money in your pocket, no one wants to work with you. It's that simple. So that was probably my biggest mistake. And look, I started when I was 22, and so that's how you learn. And actually, my boss yelled at me and sort of said what Raphael said to his wonderful team, which is, if you're not helping people in the right way, go home.
Great.
Thank you so much. Beth, greatest mistake, biggest lesson.
So, I don't know if this is a mistake, but I think my biggest sort of flaw, which has sort of not helped me in certain ways, is like patience. And like not being patient with something and like trying to rush it along, and then like it ends up not going through. I mean, I'm thinking about one example in particular. It doesn't happen to me often, luckily, because I control myself, but just being impatient and pushing something through so it gets done, and then it ends up falling apart because of a mistake that I probably wouldn't have made if I was just a little bit more patient with it. And, it costs a deal, and, deals in this business are significant.
Thank you so much, Beth. Raphael, greatest mistake, biggest lesson.
Well, I really like what Beth just said, because I know that I've been in that position many times, especially early on in my career. But I think one of the bigger mistakes that I probably made repeatedly in the beginning also is sort of shutting the door on certain clients if they appear to be shutting the door on you, and doing it in a way that burns the bridge, right? Where it's just kind of like scorched earth. And the much better way to do it is just to very graciously say, thank you very much, I hope we speak again soon. And in many instances, those people end up coming back around to you, or their friends, or referred to you by them. So it's important to remember that, I think, when something seems to go sideways with a particular client, to not get upset, not get angry, and keep this sort of bridge intact, right? Regardless of how you actually feel at that moment. And when I first started in 04, 05, that was a challenge.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Raphael. By the way, if anyone hasn't seen the other two panels on the Mindset series, they're on my YouTube channel. Please see them. I'm echoing, you reminded me, because John Gomes kept saying on the first panel, stay level-headed, stay level-headed, stay level-headed. And that was actually one of the biggest points that I took away. That first panel that we did in October, John Gomes was on it, Tyler Whitman, the newest star of $1 Million Listing, is on it, Jessica Peters, Julie Hoagland, and Steve Cohen. So it's an amazing panel. The panel we just did before the end of the year is the Fierce Females in Real Estate panel. You can also watch that if you haven't seen it. Diane Ramirez, who's here, is on it. E.A. Stribling is on it. There it was Beth Friedman and Julia Spillman. So those are amazing, amazing. And how many of you would like a copy of the video of today's event? Please raise your hands. Great. Melissa, if you can please hand out the little pockets. You can put your business cards in there. We'll make sure that as soon as the link is up, you're able to share the link with whoever you want to, with your office, and then to review this stuff. That would be great. So Louise, what's been the greatest mistake that you've made in your career and the lesson that you learned, please?
This is me?
Yes, please.
Oh, well, there are a lot. I think early in my career, when I really started working in development, I think my biggest mistake was not embracing the industry individuals and being short-sighted on that. So I think that that's why I've kind of leaned and swung a very different pendulum about that. And re-centered myself on being generous with my knowledge, and then the other single most biggest or greatest mistake that I've made is not really towards my clients. It was towards myself and my business, and not leaning into the details of my business, because I, always believe that you can't sort of, you can't take a relationship that I have spent years and years building, and me not really leaning into the details of my business and putting the right agreements in. And I would still say today, I need to learn from you how to pull up and not be so much of myself in every much of those details, although that is how I stay so connected to a very diverse market. But that would probably be that's 2 mistakes.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Next question. How do you keep your mindset strong and resilient despite repeated disappointments? Which actions do you take to support a strong mindset? So Beth, let's start with you. What do you actually do to support a strong mindset?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I guess a lot of it is just psyching myself up in a sense. I work out every morning. I try to clear my head, spend some alone time so I can figure out my day, sort of what I'm going to do and what I want to achieve. And I think part of that is just, my mindset. I'm very much go, go, go. I think that's the best way to say it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Beth. How do you keep your mindset strong and resilient? What actions do you take, Raphael?
Again, I think of what Beth said. I go to the gym every morning for 6 days a week, and it's therapy for me. It's not only about feeling good physically or hoping to be sort of taking care of yourself in a preventative way as you get older, but what it does for you mentally and emotionally, I think is just as important. And that's what I do, and that's how I get through life, I think, at this point, by going to the gym every morning.
How many of you can relate to that? Oh, lots of workout junkies, love it. All right, great, thank you so much. Ryan Serhant, how do you keep your mindset strong and resilient? What are the actions that you take?
Same. Same, yeah, before real estate, I would always work out at night, because that's that's just what I did at college and everything. So I'd work out, 9 p.m., 10 p.m. after the day. But then you get into real estate and you're like, I can't do that. 1, for events, and 2, you're just way too tired. So then I started forcing myself to wake up early, and it's not easy. It's not like, wow, I love 5 a.m. I used to think, man, there are people, must be so easy, and I have this thing that's wrong with me. But no, you force yourself to do it because that's the job. And same thing, I work out every day if I can, in the mornings early, and the days where I don't are really, really weird. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. That and the baby. I have a baby now. We just had one. So I will FaceTime her during the day when things are weird, like if a developer's yelling at me on the phone because everything's my fault, right? I'll hang up the phone, then I'll FaceTime her, and she tries to eat the phone at the same time. Everything's okay.
Congratulations on the baby. Louise, how do you keep your mindset strong and resilient? What are the actions you take to support a strong mindset?
I'm a workout girl myself, so anybody who knows me that I clock a good 4 to 5 spin classes, and I'm a punch fitness and person, so I work out probably 7 times a week. I double on 1 or 2 days, and that centers me, but I also think that the mindset of attitude is having faith in the process. All processes, with all clients, with all days, sometimes with people who were on my team, policies of buildings and advising boards, having faith in that process and just being purposeful about what you're delivering and why you're doing it, and not being in control or in charge of what their response, their action is going to be, then the rest keeps, again, the work will take care of the rest.
Thank you so much, Louise. David Kornmeier, how do you keep your mind strong and resilient? What are the actions that you take to support a strong mindset?
Sure. So I actually think the cell phone issue is a big problem. We have so much stuff coming at us. You get in the taxi, there's a TV, you're on your phone on the subway, you're getting emails, text calls, whatever, 24/7 if you're busy, and then when you're not busy, you're freaking out that you're not getting emails, text calls 24/7, and kind of, and you just start playing Candy Crush or something. And so it's, I think it's unhealthy, and I think that our minds have gotten to this weird place where we start to require constant stimulation. And so for me, I really try hard to, it's funny, I grew up half Catholic, half Jewish. I started taking Shabbat when I moved to New York, so I was like, I need a day off. And so you can get away with it, and they actually respect you more. They're like, oh, that's good, David, yeah. So I really try to have my assistant, who's actually named Christian, cover Saturdays where my phone is off, and I don't care what happens. It's too bad. I'll deal with it tomorrow, or not. And then I try to take at least 2 vacations a year where I'm backcountry skiing, backpacking, in the woods, in a cave, in a hole in the dirt, whatever, where my phone literally will not work. And so I go for at least one full, know thyself. I go for 1 full week where my phone just won't work. And then I come back and I feel that my mind functions differently. Like I feel I'm slower. I feel I'm in a good way. I feel I'm more careful, more thoughtful, and I'm not as erratic. So for me, it's actually taking that space. I like to work out too, but these guys are animals, It's like, if I get 3 days a week, and I'm happy. But protecting your mental space is important for me.
Thank you so much, David. This is a little bit of a personal question, but I've checked it with the panelists before, so I'm very excited that you're willing to answer this question. I will offer you 2 questions. Please pick whichever one you feel more comfortable with. We're going to start with Raphael. Going through which adversity, whether personal or business, has become your greatest motivator, or please share a difficult experience, business or personal, that helped fortify your inner strength?
I would say getting divorced is probably top of list in terms of unpleasant experiences that kind of are sometimes very drawn out, and you have to just keep going, and when you finally get through it, I think you're stronger.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Ryan Serhant, same question. Going through which adversity has become your greatest motivator, or please share a difficult experience, whether personal or business, that helped fortify your inner strength?
Not having any money. I distinctly remember before I got into real estate, I gave myself 2 years after college to come to New York and try to make something happen. And I wanted to be an actor / hand model, apparently, and do what I could. And the money that I had saved up, because when you come to New York City for the first time, you work for free a lot. You do a lot of things for free. I passed out flyers for Equinox on the corner of 63rd and Lexington. I did lots of weird things to try to make money. And I basically just ran out in the summer of 2008. At the Food Emporium, back when it was in the Bridge on 59th Street. And I used to get, because I thought I needed protein, and protein was good from tofu, so I used to get tofu on Sundays with lots of yogurt and granola. That was like my thing. So I'd get all my food on Sundays and I'd eat it for the week ahead. And my credit card got declined, and it was like a panic moment of like, what the hell? Sorry, it wasn't credit card, it was in my debit card. And that was pretty brutal, and I just sort of froze, and there was a line of people, like these, Upper East Side moms and dads behind me trying to push me along. So I just froze, and I ran out the door, ran onto the subway, holding back tears the whole time. That was a moment I will never, ever go back to. That was probably the bottom for me.
Thank you so much for sharing such personal stories. Thank you. Louise, you're next. Going through which adversity, whether personal or business, has become your greatest motivator, or please share a difficult experience, business or personal, that helped fortify your inner strength.
Oh, wow, okay, because I had a couple of chapters that you and I could talk about. But I would say that one of the most defining things that in retrospect, because I certainly didn't understand it as a child, but I was undiagnosed with terrible dyslexia until 6th grade. In 6th grade, I went to one of the finest private schools in Nashville, Tennessee, which I like to call Nash Vegas. And I had a 45% reading comprehension. And what I've come to learn today is that very, very uncomfortable sort of feeling that everybody was turning the page, and I remember the anxiety of in 1st grade having to read in a circle, and I know exactly the line that says the rabbit had to go to the store. The frightening thing is I do remember that, and I kept saying this is wrong, it's got had in there twice. But what I'll say that I've come to realize and recognize that challenge, like you, has become something that has a part of the cloth that I'm cut from. And my dyslexia today is one of the greatest gifts, because my spatial memory is like Rain Man. And my ability to remember details of numbers, like I could tell you what the fax machine is from 1993 on the West Side office is 212-874-1774. And
That's halfway.
And really, the reality of that is that I also developed as a very, very young child people skills, because I wanted to deflect what I didn't know. And that is the lesson of being really the ability to fake it till you make it in every scenario in life.
Thank you so much. Mr. David Kornmeier, going through which adversity, whether personal or business, has become your greatest motivator, or please share a difficult experience, business or personal, that helped fortify your inner strength.
Well, in terms of people skills, if you don't know Louise, she's the most personal person on earth, if you haven't actually spent any time with her, in case you can't tell already. So yeah, for me, I grew up like middle class in Maryland, and we never traveled except getting in the station wagon and going to grandma's house. Never went out to restaurants, stuff like that, and that's fine. My parents put all their money towards our education. So when I first moved to New York, and honestly, my goal was to not live in my parents' basement. That was my primary motivator. Talk about mindset, stay out of the basement. And so I was a lousy secretary, I'm disorganized, and my boss put me on full commission after about 10 months, and I thought it was a promotion, because like Louise, I didn't really understand what that meant. And I think he just wanted to get me off the books, obviously. But so he gave me some extra clients, and I had $8,000 in the bank, living with grandma, and I didn't have health insurance, I didn't pay taxes, my food budget was $110 per week, and one time I got too drunk and I spent it all on like potato chips and M&M cookies at Christie's, and I had to eat that for breakfast every day before work. So be careful with your money. But, you know, I went 6 months when I started with no deals. I did a deal right away, but there's an oil spill violation that happened in 1989 that delayed the closing and no one could figure it out. And then I quit, because after 6 months I was like, hey, boss, thanks very much for the opportunity, but I'm out of money, I have to move home. Well, why don't you just, I'll give you a loan for this one deal and stay. I was like, I don't like to be in people's pocket. And I said, no, it's all right. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm going home. He said, all right, why don't you stay at the end of the month? So I was like, okay. So that month, this guy who I'd been schlepping around, he got rejected by 30 banks. And this was before the market, before 2009, right? So this guy was really not someone you want to give a loan to. But Suzanne Bach, Guard Hill Financial, call her, she's great. She got this guy a loan. I closed a deal for $2.1 million, and my boss was taking 65% of the net, so that means I got $15,000. Then another deal where I was a backup bidder for $2.85 million. The guy didn't sign, we got that deal. Then I researched oil spill violations, and I realized, the statute of limitations on this is 15 years, which is actually up in January. And I called the lawyer and I said, hey, is this right? He's like, oh yeah, that's right. Thanks. I'm like, yeah, way to do your job, buddy. But then I had $45,000.
Attorney's name?
I don't remember. Yeah. But then I had $45,000 in the bank, and I'm just sharing the numbers because I remembered exactly how much I had. I was like, okay, $45,000, I can last 1 year. And still, I'm not getting insurance, I'm not paying taxes, you don't need to do that stuff. Just eat and get your yogurt and your tofu and keep grinding. And that next year, with the pressure off, I sold 8 townhouses and 2 apartments. The year after that, I made $50,000. So, it's there are these huge swings, but because I learned to live very lean, partially because of my upbringing, partially just from grinding and whatever. Like when that 2009 thing hit, I knew this is fine. I'll go 11 months without a deal because like my expenses are low, I know how to grind, and it's fine. And so I think having that really hard beginning makes you able to survive other hard times later on, and it's important not to forget that.
Thank you, David. Beth, going through which adversity, whether personal or business, has become your greatest motivator? Or please share a difficult experience, business or personal, that helped fortify your inner strength.
So I don't think I have a specific difficult experience, but one thing that I've struggled with over the years is I started in this business when my oldest was about a year old. And I would say that the one thing that I've always I almost feel like I have an unfair advantage to others because I've been trying to build a career while at the same time, being present for 3 kids. And, being there for them, every day. And I sort of compartmentalize things in my head. So it's like yesterday was just one example. I have the stress of a deal, the stress of a rental, making sure my son gets to the Regents review, making sure my other son has an orthodontist appointment because his braces broke. And it's the list is honestly endless. It's I always think of myself as one of those, when you go to a carnival and you have those games where you have to whack-a-mole. Yeah, I'm like a whack-a-mole player because it's okay, Zach's set, now it's Alex, now it's Aria, now it's Ariel, now it's this. So it's that has been, it's been difficult, because it's basically 2 full-time things, and you have to really, I can't tell you that I'm ice skating with them and being oh my God, did you get that, and that's how my life has been, literally, for 15 years. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Beth. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. I know that a lot of agents say, I don't know what to do with my day. So we're going to start with you, Ryan. If there's an agent in this room who's struggling or feeling stuck, and they don't know what to do to rev up their business, and they came to you for advice, what is a step-by-step recipe or blueprint that you would offer them for how exactly to structure an 8-hour workday tomorrow?
RyanSerhant.com/course. Oh man, I talk about daily structure all the time. I mean, I live and die by discipline. It's the way I was raised, which sucked at the time, but now I'm very thankful. And my days are very, 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 very scheduled. I'm booked on the 15-minute mark, except for right now, because it's like 2.5 hours. I start early. I start at 4:30. Do emails for 30 minutes to 45 minutes and kind of go from there and go out my day. Do you want me to talk about my whole day right now, or?
Can you give them a schedule for if one of them don't know what to do with an 8-hour day? What would you recommend? They should get in the office at what time and do what? What would you suggest?
I mean, 8 hours seems pretty part-time to me, but I break down my day in 3 ways. I call it a finder, keeper, doer system. Because we are all our own independent contractors and we have to create our own business. Like at the end of the day, I am a lead generator. That is what I do. That's how I make money. I generate leads. I need to meet as many people every day as I possibly can. I need to generate more leads to come through for myself and my team. And the team puts a lot of responsibility on my shoulders, and that's part of the reason I work so hard, because there's so many of them now. But I structure it finder, keeper, doer. So the beginning of my day always is brainstorm time. Think about how I'm going to grow my business today. How am I going to grow my business this week? Am I hitting my goals? What's my monthly goals? Or should I be prospecting? If we got a new listing over there, how am I going to let everyone in that building know about it in a different way? How should we do different things with the media team? How should we do this, do that? And really force yourself for at least an hour, if you can, maybe a half hour, to focus on your business as a whole movement. Otherwise, real estate agents, like a lot of people, will be so busy all day long and they run around with their head cut off like a chicken. And then before you know it, it's 2030, or literally it's 2020. Like, it's crazy to me. And then a little bit in the middle, I do my keeper time, which is accounting, which is paying attention to the money you have in the bank, the money you have to spend. How much am I gonna spend on this? Should I do that ad? The seller wants all these things. Should we really do that? How am I gonna balance everything? Otherwise, before you know it, it's the end of the year and you're like, oh man, I gotta pay taxes and I gotta think through these things. So try to be really, really in tune with your financial profile. And then there's the doer time, which is doing all the work that you set out for yourself. And for me, and I know that might not work for everybody, but for me, that structure of 3s gives me comfort in knowing what I need to do every day, independent of deals. Deals are gonna come and deals are gonna go. But if I know I gotta wake up every day, I gotta hit my 3 things, and the day is gonna end and tomorrow's a brand new day to do it even better, that's awesome. Like, that's comforting for me in a business that has no structure whatsoever.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about your online program? I know that you have 42 classes online, right? There are templates, there are modules, you have their day broken down, how to do follow-up, how to elevate your business. What are some things in your program that people can benefit from? Negotiation, new construction, higher price points? Tell us about your program, please.
Yeah, okay, sure. So in August of last year, we launched an education platform that's run by Kyle Scott, who's actually up here in the room. And it is a course with 42 videos, worksheets, templates, email templates, agent guides, everything that I do for my team. We decided to put out there, which was a terrifying process because it's like everything I know. But we put it out there to teach it's for real estate agents and salespeople all over the world. I'd say our biggest membership base is not even in the United States. And it's to teach you what to do from A to Z, right? If you're a brand new agent and you're getting into it, this is what you need to do. If you're a veteran agent and you want to learn how to do things a little bit better, this is what you need to do. If you're a buyer's agent in Nashville, here's everything that you need to do when thinking about buyers, at scale and at volume. This is how you market. This is how. So I just wanted to create a template for how do you go from tofu and yogurt to not. And it's been pretty good so far.
And tell us a little bit about how it's not just how to sell real estate, it's how to build a real estate career.
Yeah, I think it's kind of in line with everybody here. I mean, like, this panel is a little bit intimidating for me, just to say, like, it's like David Kornmeier is the king of all townhouses. Like, it's nuts. He's also hilarious. I had no idea. This is the best, right? Louise is awesome. I mean, like, you go uptown, like, I can't pitch against her ever. It's always, and when his sellers are like, well, I'm meeting with her, I'm like, God fucking damn it. Raphael De Niro is the man. And I distinctly remember when you took me for oatmeal in Tribeca. If you remember that? Yeah. And he reached out to me and said, let's hang out. And I was like, I can't. This is insane. And you're someone I've always looked up to. And Beth has a Rolodex and a network of people that I can only, aspire to have. So it's like, the career of becoming a real estate salesperson in New York City, it's like the coolest thing in the world. I talk to real estate agents all around the world, and they all want to be here. It's nuts. And I'm like, are you sure? Do you know what it's like here? But everywhere, they want to be in New York City, and because you can walk outside, meet someone on the street, and that person could buy a townhouse, It's crazy. You can't do that anywhere else in the world. And so the structures that I set up for people to try to, help the industry as much as I can in kind of like a give back type way, I think help people think about this job not as a run around, do appointments, hit the bed, wake up, run around, do appointments, hit the bed, oh my God, am I gonna make money? But think about it as a bigger movement and as a career so that you can have a better lifestyle, and that's what it's for.
Thank you so much. And Ryan's program is online and it's $500, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So if you want to invest and get all the templates that it took you, how many years did it take you?
We're all investing.
How many years did it take you to come up with all those templates?
10, I don't know, like 10. I mean, it's everything that we've ever done. I used to have this thing called an agent Bible that I would give out to my team when I started the team in 2012. Yeah, well, no, we just started building it from there. Like anytime you're in a sticky situation, that email that you would send that would get the job done, and it worked, like I would save that,
And that's in the module?
Yes,
those emails?
yeah,
Beautiful.
everything. Just copy paste, it works.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And let's give them some love. Louise, if you had to set up an 8-hour day, how would you set up an 8-hour day for the audience?
Well, I'm just going to step back a little bit just to remind everybody, as many of you all, I still today have a hard time thinking of myself as a businesswoman. And, several $100 million in sales a year, and I don't think of myself as a business person, which is actually not the truth, but I just happened a little bit by accident. And when I first wrote down, I used to do a mastermind, with a book called Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And the first time I was a dancer and I used to do creative movement with special needs kids. So I'm quite sure, I don't know how I got here, and as fulfilled as I am, because real estate is not transactional, it is a business of people, and I love people. So for myself, the first time I ever wrote down my goals for income was from this book, and I wrote that I wanted to make $25,000 in commission, which I didn't make that year, but that seemed ginormous to me, and it took me about 4 years when I moved my puck to 300,000. It took me 4 years to do that. But the first year that I met, I went to Douglas Elliman, to Cape Rover and wanted to get a job, and I had done $200,000 worth of gross commission. Every transaction was co-broked, and not the highest was $200,000. She told me to go get some more experience, so I came to Halstead. But that's a true story. I will also just say that for myself that I did Tony Robbins because I wore prairie skirts and unitards, so the creative visualization, goal setting. So I realized that when I set my goals annually, it has to be broken down quarterly, it has to be broken down monthly, it has to be broken down weekly, and weekly has to be daily. And from that, my goal, because I needed 1, learn the market, and 2, I didn't have any buyers, so I literally was like, hanging out at open houses, and when people would leave, I'd be like, hey, you want somebody to work with? I'd love to help you. And so I would take 8 customers out every week. I had to show 8 customers, 8 apartments, and that was 64 pieces of property. And that's how I did it, one deal at a time. And that broken down, because I didn't know any of the other, I didn't even know how to write business letters. I was a dancer. So anyway, that was my base.
Thank you so much, Louise. David, if you had to help the audience with how to structure their 8-hour day, or that's half a day for Ryan, how would you recommend they structure their day?
Well, I guess I'm a little weird in that I'm kind of, well, in multiple ways, but if anyone who knows me well knows I'm notoriously unstructured, because I don't like having goals or rules, because then I feel it's like something I have to do, and I'm very oppositional, and I don't like to do things that I have to do. And that's just me, so for me, I sort of have this weird way of just kind of like, oh, well, if something pops into my head that seems like a good thing to follow, and I just kind of go for that. And then sort of Ryan talks about running around with the chicken with the head cut off. That's basically me, even though no one thinks that because I seem very calm. So I think it's hard for me to give advice like this. I actually did take, I've worked with multiple business coaches, Dexter, and I went to the same coaching class in Chicago, which gave me some structure that was helpful. I guess just in terms of mindset as related to this, and I worked with Vivace as well, who's great, of course. And I guess when I got to this point, I said, wow, it's been a few years. I think maybe I can actually make $1 million, like total, and I could be a millionaire. That's so crazy. So I was like, I'm gonna try to be a millionaire. And then I became a millionaire, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I thought, well, maybe I can make $1 million in 1 year. And then I made $1 million in 1 year, and I was like, well, maybe I can make it $1 million net of taxes in 1 year. And I did, and so. It kind of progresses.
Now he's got 12 years in the bank.
Exactly.
And so I guess I don't want to go on and on with this question, but there's, I think if you can find something, I'm just a big believer in really knowing yourself and finding ways to make some structure or something work for you, whether you plan it out or you have a mental projection or you just fly by the seat of your pants, which is what I usually do. So.
Thank you so much, David. Beth, if you were to recommend how someone could break down an 8-hour day, what would you recommend?
So, look, that's a hard question to answer because, at least for me, every day is very different, and sometimes I don't even know what the day will bring. But the one thing I would tell, for new agents or people who are trying to grow their business is I do the same. There are certain things that I do, like, ritually. So every morning, I always make a list. I'm a very big list person, and I sort of, calendar it out so that I know, if I have to call Justin at 3, and I put everything in my schedule. And I think that that's important to keep your sort of sanity, because there'll be a lot of things, at least for me, that distract you during the day that I would forget half the stuff I have to do if I didn't write it down. But I would say that for someone who's newer, doesn't have a lot going on, there's certain things that I would do. I don't know if you have to do it 9 to 5 or whatever it is, or if it has to actually be 8 hours. But I think the most important thing in sort of getting yourself going is be out there, be present. If you have nothing going on in the office, go to open houses, go see property, try to help a more senior agent in the office. Maybe they can have you work on something with them, that's all the way downtown that they don't want to show, or all the way uptown that they don't want to show. Work Sunday open houses. Again, back to the list, make lists of everyone you know, everyone your mother knows, everyone your best friend knows, and try to reach out to those people, whether it's via phone call or more just creating your own e-blast, sending it out to people, trying to get them to understand that you're in real estate and you can help them, and give them some fun facts about the city. All the brokerages have now templates for newsletters. I think that's another way. If your office has call-ins or desk duty or things like that, you can do that. I mean, these are all things that I think that as a beginner would be helpful. You probably don't want to do what I do, because I'm I have my old systems that work for me and I kind of follow them. Some probably good, some probably bad. But if I was starting today, these are things that I did 15 years ago that sort of got me going. The first deal I ever did, and I'll never forget it. I did an open house on the West Side, and the market is so not like this today, but this was 2005. And I said, yeah, I'll do the open house. And he says, look, I have another open house. Do you mind if I leave you here alone? I said, no problem. And it was like a 2-bedroom on the Upper West Side, a pre-war building. I think he was asking like $550. So needless to say, you guys are gonna laugh because this is so unheard of in this market. We had 87 sign-ins. 87. Like, I was so overwhelmed. It was like my first week on the job. I'm like, this is insane. Like, and it's almost like you couldn't even keep track. And like, out of 87, like 45 directs. Like, it was so overwhelming. Anyway, I got my first deal from that open house, thank God. And so those are things that I think that would, sort of help.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much, Beth. Raphael, how about you? 8-hour day. What would you recommend to people in the audience who want to grow their business?
Once again, Beth has kind of, I think, summarized it perfectly in terms of what you're supposed to do as a new agent. You're also typically wanting to be focused on rentals in the beginning. That's how you learn the buildings, the owners, the landlords, and how to sort of interact with clients. The only thing I would add to what Beth said is that I'd be trying to set aside a couple of hours a day to read, whether it's morning or during the day or at night. For the first 6 or 7 years of my career, I read The Real Deal cover to cover every single month, whether the articles were immediately relevant to me or not. I read every ad, I read the commercial leases in the back, the commercial sales, and I probably learned more from doing that than I did from anybody within my company or any other agents that I knew. And then it went into the New York Times, of course, every single Sunday, Wall Street Journal every Friday, Observer, Commercial Observer, Bloomberg. All of those resources are really valuable. Even to this day, I probably read 2 to 3 hours per day.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Raphael. We're almost at our closing, but before we go, we have a very exciting little thing to do here. How many of you are visual learners? Please put your hands up. All right, for those of you who've been to the prior panels, you know what we're about to do, so. DJ Howard is going to help us.
No matter what, I can never get it up. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they say yeah. 'Cause all I do is win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air. Ludacris going in on the verse, 'cause I never been defeated and I won't stop.
Okay. So,
I thought I was going to start rapping.
we all get a Sharpie. Please pass the Sharpies down. And then this is your Instagram moment, everybody. So if you want to whip out your cameras, this will be very exciting for you. This is for all of you. If you could write as big as possible with a fat part of the Sharpie so the people in the back of the room can see. If you had to express the quality that you attribute your success to in one word, what would it be?
I wanna be a billionaire. The things I never had. I wanna be on the cover of Forbes magazine, smiling next to Oprah and the Queen. Oh, every time I close my eyes, I see my name in shining lights. Yeah, a different city every night. Oh, I swear the world better prepare for when I'm a billionaire. Yeah, I would have a show like Oprah. I would be the host of everything crisp.
All right. Yeah, Louise, you can dance for us. All right, we're going to start. Hide your words except for Louise. Louise, please stand up and hold your word for our lovely audience. If you have to express the quality that you attribute your success to in one word, what would it be? And tell us a little bit about it.
Grit, as I shared earlier, Brett, as I shared earlier, for myself, coming from my days of my dyslexia and coming to learn and sort of owning who I am and embracing it, that ability to be nimble, and if you just never give up, and if you can't conquer something one way, then be willing to break it down another way. And so that's for almost everything in our lives, whether it's work or home life.
All right, beautiful. Can you please hold up your word? Photo op, everybody.
I don't know, guys.
No, they're into it. They're into it. Trust me, they're into it. Thank you so much. David Kornmeier, one word. Please stand up, show us your word.
I think everyone's gonna have like the same word, but persistence, kind of the same idea as what Louise said.
I love you.
What Louise said?
Yeah,
Persistence.
I also had to look it up to make sure I spelled it right. But
I don't want to be alone with dyslexia.
it's so great, it's easier.
Yeah, well, that's
Like, no, you persist.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, David. Beth Benalloul, one word.
I'm twinning with.
You know, great minds think alike.
Please tell us, why is Brett your word?
Well, I just think that it's really what you need to succeed in this business. You know, it's a difficult business, and there's a lot of times where you want to give up, and you got to kind of just put your head down and keep moving. And I think that's the number one, you know, sort of indicator of success.
Thank you so much, Raphael. Quality that you attribute your success to.
Another variation of the same comment.
Love it.
Nobody cares, just shut up and press on.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Ryan, what's your word?
Initiative. Yeah, I can stand it, yes.
Yes.
Stan, I make sure he spelled it right.
Yeah, take a second. Yeah. It's get up and go, you know, the get up and go attitude, ready, set, go all day long. Like if you don't take the initiative to do what you want to do every day, it's not going to happen. So you got to do it.
Thank you. The panelists can now please all stand. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Ryan, before. What's your word? Please stand with your word. There's your paparazzi.
Yay.
Yay, yes. Give them some love, people. Before we go to audience questions, if you could be on American Idol and sing any song, David Kornmeier, what song would you sing and why?
I really didn't think you were going to ask a lot of these questions. Devil is a Lie, Rick Ross.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Beth,
I never even saw this question on the list. I might not have gotten down that far. I figured we'll never have time for all these questions.
I skipped.
Okay.
If you could sing one song in
Honestly,
American Idol.
I have a terrible voice. I wouldn't punish anyone with that. I would sing like Happy Birthday or something.
Thank you so much. Raphael, if you could sing one song in American Idol, which song would it be?
Punt on that one for a second. If I could try to think while someone else goes.
Old Man by Neil Young.
Oh, nice. Can I have two?
Yeah.
Okay. Summertime. I don't know if you know Summertime. I'm just dating myself. And I'm No Age-Old Greg Allman. Just saying.
Thank you so much.
Just saying.
Simple Man, Leonard Skinner.
Oh, very nice.
Oh,
Very
you're
nice.
you're in my genre down south with that new girlfriend of yours.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want you to repeat, please, Raphael.
Simple Man, Leonard Skinner.
That was my second choice. Good song.
David Kornmeier, last question. Growing up, what was your favorite cartoon or TV show?
I actually wasn't allowed to watch TV. But my dad said when I was 2.5 years old, I used to wake up really early like Ryan and go downstairs and turn on the TV and watch Jimmy Swaggart on silent. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy Swaggart is like an old school preacher who is very emotive. And my dad's like, I know you had no idea what he was saying because you were 2, but he was so mesmerizing, you just sat there and watched Jimmy Swaggart for like 2 hours every Sunday morning. So there you go. That's the only TV I ever watched.
Thank you so much. Thank you, David. Growing up, Beth, which was your favorite cartoon or TV show and why?
Okay, so I love TV, and I have so many favorites, but I would say one of my favorites was Dallas. I loved that show, and I used to watch it Friday nights with my mom, and then I would pray that she'd be cool and let me stay up and watch Dynasty, which came on after Dallas, but it was late. So those would be probably my favorites.
Thank you so much. Raphael, what about you? Favorite cartoon or TV show growing up?
Tom and Jerry for sure.
Saved by the Bell.
How
Is it going to be really cheesy for me to say WWE wrestling?
Saturday mornings?
You know, I don't get out much.
Oh, that is awesome. We have time for one quick question from one specific panelist who has a burning question. Anyone have a burning question? Yes, sir.
Tom Platone from Douglas Elliman Real Estate. Beth, shout out to you. I think dancers can do anything. You're obviously proof of that, and thank you for sharing that. And thank you, panel, for humanizing this business and for being really honest. That was really inspirational to me. My question is this. I'm really tenacious. I don't let go of listings. I'm at the end of a year with a listing that hasn't sold, and they're not renewing their contract. What's the best advice you would give? It's a $9 million listing. What's the best advice you would give to getting that client back to re-sign with you and not someone else?
Can I chime in? Yeah. So I have found that being nimble and data-driven today's market is we cannot make up the market. I'm sure you can go to ryanserhant.com and get a course, but in the interim, really, what I have found, I love that. I'm going to go get that. I just want to say that this is where I learned aligning myself and being generous with knowledge for colleagues, of sharing. I can't tell you how many times I've called David and go, what are you in contract for? Can you give me, instead of that, I can't tell you till I have board approval. It's really nice to be able to do that, and you take the $9 million, whatever room count, and be very disciplined, and you give them a visual story. Active, contract signed, not contract signed last ask, contract signed what it's in contract for. And give them your knowledge, which is tenacious and a lot, and walk them through why we need to do things differently, and that if you've tried it their way at their price, you can have any other broker come in and do their dance, but it's going to get the same result, and that is the definition of insanity.
Is the person they don't want to renew because of pricing?
We started out high.
Yeah.
Granted, I brought an Ori pricing team. We started out high all last year. We chased the market with the number. We're really in the pocket we need to be at.
Yeah.
However, it's been a year, and they're really tired.
Yeah.
They're like, you haven't sold. You gave us the number. You're the
I know. I've heard this. I have a few ideas for you, actually. Idea one is if you think you're in the right price, then that's a different story. But if you still think you're overpriced, which you probably are, I don't even know the listing, I'm just guessing. But you could say, maybe we bring in an independent appraiser and see where the appraisal comes in. That would be idea one. Idea two, but it sounds like you just said you did this, is, let me bring in a pricing team from my office. And number three, which would be my worst case scenario, but I would do it if you're worried about losing the listing completely, is say, look, maybe you think this is me. I know it's not me. I know it's the market. We have done everything we can to get this, apartment sold. But if you feel so strongly, maybe you bring in a colleague that you have, even from another firm, and say, let's co-list it. You'll be represented by both firms, 50-50. If you really think you're getting shut out, so you could either get 50% or you could get 0, right? So that to me would be my last effort, before, I would obviously start with the other so you can preserve it for yourself, but if not, say, I've had this happen before where a Brown Harris Stevens broker called me. He's like, the seller's impossible. They're blaming me for the listing. It's not us. We're at an awkward moment with the seller. We want to co-list it with you. I came in, obviously the second broker's always right. They know more. Once the second broker says, look, you've been on for a year and you're not selling, they're going to say, you know what, they're right. What were we thinking? And all of a sudden it's yeah, we'll lower $500,000 and then you get your buyer.
And
so
that's-
that to me would be the last thing I would do to try to preserve it, and at least you get a little piece of the pie and all your efforts aren't for nothing.
It also is selfless. It's really putting, it's selfless, and that is demonstrated by, look, I want to be successful for you, and it doesn't matter how we do that, but let's do it together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're about to close. Just one housekeeping. Raphael has to dash out of the building. So Daniel Blackman from Corcoran, if you don't mind, should please walk him out. He won't be able to stay here for a meet and greet. We're going to stand here for 30 seconds after the panel. If all the panelists can stay, we're going to take some photographs, so that will be awesome for all of you, whoever came in late. And also, I'd like to thank all the panelists, everyone in the audience. We'd love to thank Fordham for this wonderful room, the Real Estate Board of New York, and our sponsor, ACE from Citizen. Thank you so much. All panelists, you have a grab bag behind you with your name on it. There's different things in different bags, so please make sure to take the bag that has your name on it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.